Welcome to episode 25 of Knittings and Sewings, a podcast where we talk about knitting, sewing, spinning, weaving, and all kinds of different fiber-related hobbies, of which I put my toe in many, and you never know what I'm going to be doing at any given time. But right now I'm kind of on a knitting sweater phase, and so I promised you last time that I would show you my new sweater project. This time, and I am ready to do that. It is the totally tubular turtleneck. I love turtlenecks. I wear them all year round. In the summers, I'll often wear turtlenecks that are short-sleeved or sleeveless, but I just love a good turtleneck. So, especially at this in-between transitional time of year with spring going to be soon, it's already kind of giving us a preview of spring right now. We've had about 2 weeks of really beautiful weather. In fact, we've been up into the 60s for the last couple of weeks as a high, and so we're really excited about spring coming. Even though I'm a winter person, a fall and winter person, I enjoy the nicer sunny weather. Really does, I have to admit, cheer me up. So it's been a pleasure to have an early spring, and hopefully I'll finish the sweater in time to be able to wear it a little bit before the season totally changes and gets warm. But I am really happy with how this is turning out. And the pattern is by Park Williams. As you can see from the cover, it's a little bit of a cropped sweater, kind of like the ranunculus was, but I am going to choose to make this one longer just as I did the ranunculus. I don't want it to be extremely long, but I want it to be hitting below my belly button. So anyway, it's turning out well and fitting very well right now. And I was happy to see that the swatch I did, I don't think I have my swatch here with me right now, but the swatch I did turned out very well. I washed and blocked the swatch, and I kept my yarn labels. The yarn that I used for this, the pattern called for Knit Picks Wonder Fluff, and I originally had ordered a green color that was called Mountain Fern. I was going to use an ombre colorway in it called Mountain Fern. And I ordered that, but I'm going to put a picture up here in the corner of how that didn't exactly go well with my skin tone. I ended up being dissatisfied with it because it was a little bit too yellowish and made me look a little bit like I had the flu. Bob was looking at it going, oh, wow, is that how it's going to be? And so I said, yeah, unfortunately, this is not the most flattering color. So I did send it back to Knit Picks. And instead, I ordered this Hobie yarn, the Fluffy Day, which is acrylic. Here it is. This is 100% acrylic, but it is called Premium Brushed Acrylic, and it really does have a soft, cushy, very, very comfy feel to it. I love it. And then with the variegated, I ordered the Diablo Wild Print Hobie. And this is a lace weight variegated yarn. It has shades of pink, purple, blues, and a little bit of golds, and even a little bit of orangey gold. So it's a nice variegation that is going well with the pink. I thought it would look nice, and I was happy to see that I chose a good combination. So what I'm doing with this, just to let you know, is I'm doing the turtleneck. Well, it's sticking to me because it's moharish. The turtleneck part, the cuff, I did shorten it from the prescribed 12 inches of cuff that they have on the pattern, but I decided to make mine shorter because I have a short neck, and so a 6-inch turtleneck cuff would do very well for me. I made it in solid pink, the hot pink color of the Wonder Fluff, Fluffy Day. And then the body is the variegated Diablo print. And so it's working out very well. It's fitting nicely, and I'm going to put a little picture up of how it looks as I tried it on. It's very important to put cording in or a lifeline in and try it on periodically so you do have a good fit. And because I was on gauge with for once, the needles that were called for in the pattern, I used the 9-inch needles, the size 9 needles, 16-inch to start the cuff at the top. And then I switched to 24-inch needles as it grew. And with that, I used a size 10.5, which is what they call for in the pattern. So for once, I actually got gauge, which was which was a happy surprise, because very rarely I'm a loose knitter. So it's very important to do a gauge on every sweater or piece that you do where sizing is important, because you don't want to go to all the effort to make a whole sweater and have it be a big disappointment. So that is the sweater. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to insert now a little talk that I did when I first started this sweater, talking about the short rows. So here we go. You can hear a little bit more about it. Today I want to talk about my new cast on. I had told you that I was going to be casting on a new sweater after finishing the ranunculus, and so I did just start this week. What I did, this is called the Totally Tubular Turtleneck, and I started it off with 6 inches of ribbing at the top. It is a top-down sweater, and this actually could be a 12-inch. The pattern calls for 12-inch, which is a very, very roomy, comfy turtleneck at the top if you want the larger 12-inch. But for me, I felt like the 6-inch was fine. It's going to still turn under like I want for a turtleneck, but I won't have a huge turtleneck. So that's what I opted to do. So I had 6 inches. And the yarn I used, I want to talk about that. I used 2 different yarns. One of these is the Hobie. It is called Fluffy Day. And on the neck, the cuff part up at the top, the turtleneck cuff, I did it in just the plain color, the pink, which is, the color is a hot pink. I forgot the exact name, but I'll put a link below. But anyway, it's the hot pink. And then this is the other color is the Diablo Wild Print Hobie yarn also. I held them together. I will hold them together for the body, which is going to come right after the neck here. And I've already started this. So for that, I'll hold these together. But for the hem at the bottom and for the sleeve cuffs, I will use just the pink. So I'm going to have pink at the top at the neck, pink at the sleeve cuffs, and pink at the hem at the bottom. And I think that'll be a really lovely little combination. This Hobie yarn is 100% brushed acrylic. Now I want to briefly talk about the first section beyond the cuff, beyond the turtleneck. I just want to talk briefly about the short row, because there is a short row section, and that's actually in the back. And all a short row is where you're going backwards and forth to make a little extra fabric. And this is in the back. And Bob, you might want to come up close up on this. You see my lifelines. I always put in the lifeline. There's a lifeline here at the 5-inch and 6-inch on the turtleneck. But on this part, where you see the combination of the two, the pink with the variegated carry-along color, on that part, I'm making extra fabric there, and this will be at the back of the neck there. And then the front is going to be just normal, you know. It's not as big. So this makes extra fabric in the back so that you won't have your back hiking up on the sweater. And that's the purpose of it. So from here on out, I'm just going to be, I started with the, for my gauge, drop my gauge swatch. Here it is. Hold on. Sorry, Walter. For our gauge swatch, I was actually this time able to use, we had to have, 4 inches was supposed to be the measurement in the width and the length. And for once, I actually got gauge. Normally, I'm a very loose knitter, so I end up having to go down a couple of needle sizes. So a good thing that I did do the gauge swatch and then wash it. I did wash and block it, let it dry, and found out that I'm actually going to be using their sizes recommended in the pattern, which is a 9, the smaller part for the cuff at the top, the turtleneck, and for the sleeves, there'll be a smaller needle size, and that's a size 9. So I was able to get gauge very happily. And now I'm going to, now that I finished the short row section, there is no short row in the front in this pattern, just the back. The ranunculus had short row shaping in both the front and the back. So for this, I did it the way they asked to do it, and I am getting gauge, and I'm using the size 3 in the total range of sizes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm getting gauged. So that's where I'm going with this right now, is now moving into the raglan section where I'll be knitting the raglan, and we'll be increasing. Okay, next up, I'm going to talk about some yarn that I have been working on. And I'm going to put in a snippet here where I was trying to fix yarn that I goofed up. The way this yarn should look, this is my fleece I've been spinning, the BFL fleece that I'm eventually going to be turning into a cardigan. I'm going to be dyeing this and turning it into a cardigan. However, I had a lot of frustration because I was so eager. I was almost finished with spinning enough for the whole cardigan. I figure I need somewhere between about 1,000 yards to maybe 1,100 is my closest guesstimate, because for the cardigan I'm going to be making. It is a little bit of a cropped cardigan, so I would probably need up to 1,000 to 1,100 is what I am calculating. So I was really excited because I was spinning up the last 200-yard skein of this, and turned out I made a big mistake. And what I did was instead of on my when I plied it, I spun it on my matchless spinning wheel. Everything worked fine. Those two that I was combining were the Z twist, which they should be for regular spinning. But when I combined them and plied them, it should look like this. But instead, I couldn't figure out why the yarn was wanting to separate. It was just really pulling apart, and almost like two separate yarns forced together. But it was like my husband and I were joking. This yarn became like a divorced couple. The two did not want to stay together. They were pulling apart. They were not cooperating. And I realized that I had been, instead of plying with these S twists that you normally do for plying, I had accidentally hit the Z twist button on my e-wheel. So it was because of my own fault. I had plied together in a way that these two were going to fight with each other and never reconcile. So that's why we call this the divorced yarn. I don't doubt you can see it very well up close, but the yarn is literally wanting to pull apart into two separate plies. And this is even after I tried to fix it by pulling it back through with an S twist twice. And I think I even tried a third time. It did not want to come together. So this yarn is basically going to be useless yarn in a sense. I took it to my spinning group yesterday and was lamenting about it, how upset I was, because this would have been the completion of the spinning for that cardigan. However, Carolyn, my friend Carolyn, who is in my spinning group, made a good suggestion. She suggested that I take this yarn and use it for little sample skeins for once I actually start dyeing it, to see if, to use it as samples, because other than the ply not being compatible, the yarn itself is very similar to the yarn I'm going to be using for the actual sweater. So I'm going to use this, do as she said, and make little skeins up of this to try to dye different colors and see what works in terms of what I like in terms of the color for the sweater, because I'm still debating whether I'm going to make a teal yarn out of this or a red. I'm almost tempted to make a red cardigan, almost the shade of my turtleneck here, because I love that shade of red, that cherry red. It's just a color that I do think looks good on my skin tone. So I'm tempted to have a bright red, cherry red sweater, but I understand red can be a challenge to dye. I'm not exactly sure of that, but I have heard that. And then either teal or red. I could do a purple, because purple's my favorite color, but I have a lot of things I've made in purple, so do I really need another purple sweater? I don't know, or another purple item. And then I could do blue. I was going to do like blue or teal, but several of the projects I'm working on right now and plan to work on for spring are going to be blue. So do I want to do too many blue things? I don't know. So think about that. If you have any comment about that, be sure and comment below. Let me know what you think. But I am going to be dividing this big skein up into little skeins and try different dye samples to see what I like. And in a future podcast, once the weather gets really warm out, I'm going to take you with me in the dyeing process and let you see how that goes. I'm not a dyer. That's one of my less active fiber arts that I practice. But if the weather gets nice and sunny out soon, I might take you along with me on the attempt to dye, because I have decided I don't want to just leave it cream. I want to dye it some color. So we'll be doing that. And if you have any other ideas for me about what to do with this divorce skein, let me know. Have you ever made a silly mistake like that? I mean, after spinning since 2008, you would think I would not make a silly mistake like that, but wonders never cease. In terms of my reading lately, I was telling you last time that I was in the midst of reading and completing the series of crochet mystery novels by Betty Hechtman. And the last one I read was book number 14, One for the Hooks. I had actually read from 9 to 14 in pretty quick succession. And so in the midst of reading all of that, I was kind of getting overloaded with that series, I'll tell you the truth. It was a little bit too much of a good thing. So I decided, instead of moving on to book 15 to finish out the series, I'm going to give it a little rest for a while. And I started reading a book called, I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's called You Could Make This Place Beautiful. And it's by Maggie Smith, one of my favorite poets. I really enjoy her poetry. This is one of the books of poems I've read in the past, Goldenrod. And as spring approaches, I'm always drawn back to poetry. And I'll be talking probably a little bit more about poetry over the next few weeks and months because, again, poetry is something that really appeals to me. And I have a whole little journal of poetry, not only that I try to write myself, but ones that I copy my favorite poems into that kind of poetry journal. So Maggie Smith is one who I've admired a lot, and when this autobiography came out, You Can Make This Place Beautiful. It's a short autobiography. It's one you can read in a few hours, but I just started it, but I'm already enjoying it. And she's talking about a divorce she has gone through in the last couple of years with her now ex-husband. And just talking about, it's a process of discovering a betrayal, and she has a child, and trying to let go of bitterness over time and to just realign her life with the new life situation. So if any of you particularly are going through any kind of life transition, I think all the more it would appeal to you. But I love her lyrical writing style. Even in her autobiography, her prose reads like poetry. It's really a soothing, insightful kind of read. So I'm really enjoying that particular autobiography. And it's a good palate cleanser away from the mystery crochet series I was reading. Also, I want to talk about the fact that I have been wanting to get more into exercise again. I admit I am a reluctant exerciser. So my mother-in-law years ago used to keep in shape by doing, back in the old days, it was videos of Richard Simmons. And she actively adored Richard Simmons back during the time he was recording those videos like Sweatin' to the Oldies. And so I got to thinking recently about wanting to get back into exercise, because I've been trying to eat a healthy diet now for a year, since last spring. And I made a lot of headway on being healthier, but one thing I had not yet fully incorporated is a good exercise plan. And I don't want to do anything too difficult. I want something fun and easy to do that I can incorporate into my daily life. So I decided to order some of the Sweatin' to the Oldies in DVD format. Believe it or not, I still have a couple of my mother-in-law's old VHS tapes of Richard Simmons, but those are becoming kind of outmoded, and one actually snapped in the VCR player. So I needed to update, so I got some of the DVDs. And I recently heard that they are going to be making a biopic with Pauly Shore, the comedian, is going to be playing Richard Simmons, and they recently previewed it at the Cannes Film Festival. So I will be eagerly awaiting that biopic. to see how that is. But I'm really getting into Richard Simmons again and enjoying exercising. It's so much fun to sing and dance and exercise early in the morning. It's a good way to start my day. So I suggest if you're looking for something fun to get yourself back into some physical activity, I think Richard Simmons is a good idea. Welcome back to the loom room. So we have a fabric that we talked about quite some time ago, and you might want to zoom in on this. This is the fabric, the Van Gogh yarn that I had made quite some time ago. It's actually in here. This is what I had spun. And now we are going to the loom, and I've already woven a little bit of fabric here, but I'm using different blues. This is the one I spun, and these are some commercial yarns also that I'm including. And I've cut up little pieces of this yellow that I'm putting every now and then into the fabric to show a little bit of the glimmer of the yellow. What this will eventually become is a vest. But I'm going to show you all of the colorways. Yeah, this is the Van Gogh Starry Night basic inspiration that is inspiring this particular cloth. So right now I'm going to advance the warp a little bit as we're here. Okay. And we're going to, yeah. We're going to throw the shuttle a couple of times. There's my other. Oops. And I'm going, whoops, I dropped my yellow, but I can grab it here. I'm going to put in a couple of little threads of the yellow. So that I have, get in there, glimmers of yellow in the fabric. And we have the tape measure here measuring. That's what we're doing. We're making the fabric. We're going to aim to have 4 yards of fabric. Because of the width of it, I want to have, normally I would only need about 2 or 2.5 yards to make a vest. But because of this narrower fabric, I want to make sure I have plenty, so I'm going to make 4 yards. And later, after I finish this fabric, we'll be sewing it into a vest, and we'll talk more about it at that time. But that's where we're at right now, is finally making the fabric.
Well, I want to show you, it's a little bit off topic from what we usually talk about, but I love to make a simple, what they call London Fog, which is a hot, creamy, frothy tea drink. And my favorite tea of all time is Earl Grey Tea. So I just like to keep it simple. I don't have a lot of fancy machinery. This is just simply a steamer boiler. It's made me some boiled water. And then I'm using Stash Earl Grey, but it could be any kind of Earl Grey that you like. And if you're someone who is avoiding caffeine, they also have, I think it's Twinings has a Lady Grey, which is a decaf Earl Grey. So it does not have to be caffeinated if you prefer not. But here we go. We just put the tea bag into into a cup. Pour the hot water in there, almost boiling. And I let that steep for a few minutes. Meanwhile, and I make it about half the cup of what I want, because I'm going to have to add some frothy cream here. Then I have this little gadget I've recently found I really like. It is a Bonsenkitchen frother, and I'll put a link. It's a battery, has 2 AA batteries. I've got this is milk, which has been warmed to about 140 degrees, but it doesn't have to be exact. I put it in the microwave for about 1 minute and 15 seconds to get it the temperature I want. So it's going to be warm. And if you want to put any sugar in this, you can do that as well. I drink mine without sugar. But what I do is just put it in here, this little wand, this little frother, and just get this frothy. Like so. And this is a hot drink. But you can make it cold, I suppose, if you want. The guy at the coffee shop where we meet at our knitting group said that he makes one that is cold by adding ice, like a frozen ice. But I've never tried that. I make it hot. This is what I call London fog. Then I just pour the frothy mixture in. This got a little messy. And I'm going to remove, for a moment, the tea bag so I can froth this whole thing. Then I'm going to take it out. And I leave my tea bag in while I continue to drink it. But this is just a really nice, especially, and if you don't like milk, you can have oat milk. I actually prefer oat milk rather than regular milk. So if you have any kind of dairy aversion or allergy, you can use almond milk or oat milk. And let's taste it and see what it tastes like. Yum. This is, for me, a real treat. And I hope you'll try it too. Let me know if you try it and like it.
Well, Walter and I wanted to wrap things up and wish you a hopefully happy spring. Hopefully you're getting some of the good temperatures we're getting too. And I wanted to just say once again, thank you for joining us. You can always reach me. I have an email that you can reach me at called KnittingsAndSewings@yahoo.com. Remember, knittings is plural and sewings at yahoo.com. I also am on Ravelry as Shelley C. Chellec. So if you're on Ravelry, you can reach out to me that way. But I look forward to any comments you have about our podcast, and I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to being with you again soon, and thanks so much for coming back. Till next time, love what you're making and wear what you make. Bye now.